Good evening. We're picking up where we left off last time. Sorry for being a little bit late. It took 3 tries to get Samurai Remnant working tonight. Also, congratulations to Rian on being first. Search for Yui Shosetsu. Well, I've got Arya helping me, so what could possibly go wrong? And then I exploded. The bandit field. Yui's not one to run or hide. Let's take up the challenge then. Oh, there is a thing here. Honda Shrine. Looks like Aryuna wanted that. Or Arjuna. It's probably Arjuna. I don't currently have access to Li Xuan. And that was not one of the 2 locations that Rogue Saber wanted. I gotta be on the lookout for those. I don't know them by name. Like, I know that they're Todoroki, but I don't know, like, which ones are Todoroki, if that makes sense. I don't think that spider appreciated Iori at full health with Arya. Ripping into it with Void Stance. This feeling is the servant we thought at Tamanawa. We should avoid unnecessary battles, if only we could talk it out. It still amuses me the way that Saber will just walk through doors and then open them. And then I lost all that health. I really should have just sent my blades to Shell Rake instead of one with the Void. It feels a lot better when I can, like, switch between stances and not feel obligated to stay in Void. Not that I need one with the Void. It's just a little voice in my head going, "You're not as strong as you could be." Which, now that I think about it, is probably the same voice that's in Iori's head, so maybe I should be concerned. You youngsters kept me waiting so long, I was about ready to brew myself a cup of tea. And then we challenged him. Li Xuan of no second strike. You might be Li Xuan, but you're still not immune to Tomomo's cuteness. And I'm not immune to having my heart exploded. Except I am. Joke's on you, nerd. Oh, my heart. And he's dead. There shall be no extra shells for you. Ho ho, now that was a match. Wherever you're from, heroic spirit, that was impressive. And that goes for you too, swordsman. I wonder how hard you trained to hold your own against a heroic spirit. Well, how exciting. Even falling to your blade would be a thrill. So he says. Huh. Yuri, what do you think we should do? He is a rogue servant allied with Yui. Killing him now could save us from grief later. Let's get it done. No, our only target is Fighter. I had a feeling you'd say that. That's how things stand, assassin. We'll spare you. Huh, so be it. But I repay my debts. I'm not such a proud servant as to turn down your mercy. However, there is one question I would ask you, Saber and Master. You said you're fighting to destroy the Waxing Moon's vessel and stop the ritual? And what of it? I understand your reasoning, of course, but it will be no easy task to accomplish. Valorous warriors. No, even those who merely seek valor don't abandon their desires. Do you think you're so free from the allure of having your wish granted? Ah. Well, those doubts are reasonable enough. But I'm not so fickle. I won't give up on my convictions so that easily. Perhaps that'll be enough. You should discuss these ideas of yours with her directly. But I suppose I have my own feelings on the matter. I will repay my debt to you, but I will not aid you in your fight against Shosetsu. Don't worry, assassin. I wouldn't ask you to. We'll settle this ourselves. You just keep yourself on the sideline. One more thing, Miyamoto Iori. Was there more? To me, you don't look so selfless and virtuous. You're right. I'm not a selfless person, or a virtuous one. I thought so. Well, you know yourself at least. More or less. Then you must be prepared to face it. A warrior kills. It's our nature. Some goals cannot be reached without accepting that. Make haste. The girl is at Sensoji Temple, waiting for you. Shosetsu's at Sensoji? Where will you end up? It's time for this old man to act his age and watch it play out. What's the shaking? Could not Asama be... No. Ah, and I was sleeping so well, too. Gut-wrenching shocks like these are certainly one way to wake somebody up. Are you okay, Gramps? These quakes. Let's look at the map, Iori. Something serious might be going on. Oh. And then she yoinked her spirit fonts. But they can't yoink our spirit fonts if we yoink our spirit fonts first. Nothing new. Todoroki was where Rogue Saber's fonts were, I think. I still need to do his digressions, but like, I can try to get the fonts while I'm thinking about it. I wonder where the fonts are likely to be. I'm guessing there'll be one up here just because what else would be up there? Though, after that one island, I really can't rule anything out. I know that it's called Todoroki Gorge, the area that I just entered, but like, part of my brain for like a split second really wanted it to be called Todoroki Gorge. However, Todoroki Gorge is an outlier and should not be considered. Looks like there's a guy there I can kill. I'll attend to him shortly. Oh, no spirit font here, but there's a blue thing. It's merely a skill jewel. I've got plenty of those. Ah, my blade thirsts. The blood of such strong individuals of yourselves may sate it. He seems a little old to be a swordsman. Then again, I've also got white hair, so I really shouldn't be talking. And Grandpa is dead. Everybody was praying for him, but luckily Iori killed him before he became too powerful. This must be a grave. Saber knows what a grave is, at least. Let's go, Iori. Oh, but we can pray at it. Oh, there's more than one grave here. That looks like the ninja dog. Or maybe it doesn't. I never did find the ninja dog. You lately have coffee? Congratulations on having coffee, and thank you for showing up anyway. I am not a professor with a chip on my shoulder. I don't really care if you're a little bit late. I am no longer in Todoroki by the looks of things. I guess I want to stay on this end of things. Yes, must make number go up. As for me, I'm currently distracting myself, looking for things that look a lot like this. Todoroki Fudosen. There will be one more of those things, and once I find it, I can unlock a skill for Rogue Saver. I think my favorite genre of enemy in this game is just like completely ordinary guys who have no clue what fight they just picked. And he's dead. As is he. Imagine they're all Mr. Satan tier thinking that they're hot shit because they don't know better. I mean, Mr. Satan kind of did know better. He was just in a position where he really couldn't afford to, like, come clean. Like, he very much knew that, like, if any of the Z fighters gave him a pop on the jaw, his head would come all the way off. Didn't know better at first? Fair enough. It's been a long time since I've seen Dragon Ball. I think I've mentioned before, but like, I always really preferred like the original Dragon Ball to Dragon Ball Z. Like, no shade on Z, but like, I preferred the original one a bit more. And I am once again not in Todoroki. You know, I could and probably should just look up where the second spirit font is. However, I'm scared that if I tab out of this game, I won't be able to tab back in. I guess I'll straight up ask, do you know where the spirit font that is not this one is in Todoroki? I need it for Rogue Saver. I'm gonna pick a fight with this guy in the meantime. Monk Eater Phantom Spider.
め返し来い任せろや
Okay, now the shell is gone. It's not a servant, so I'm hoping that it's not going to be able to put the shell back up. Dead end straight to the left of the one I already found. Thank you very much. Oh, it can put its shell gauge back up. Alright. I don't want to use Lion Slayer too much because it costs a lot of gems, but it is very satisfying to use. You believe I have a ton of gems at home? Only like 40. And like, they take time to finish. And I definitely wouldn't ever play like a factory game or like a crafting game and just sit there watching the machines make a number go up for hours. I totally wouldn't do that. Oh, the good news is I'm no longer getting one-shot by these guys. I fully expect this thing to put up another shell gauge right around now, but hopefully I can kill it before then. Another way to phrase it might be, I expected to try. And it's dead. Not bad. Oh, I got an achievement for that. And there is a thing here. Jinben Cavern. Oh, that was the other point of power in Todoroki. So yeah, that worked out. I was just like, I'll kill this guy to spend time. Because like I peeked in with the with like the sight and I didn't see the bot, so I assumed it wasn't there. Now, I haven't really had an opportunity, I think, to do Leishman or Saber's things, so I assume they happen after this. Though, I'm going to lose access to Saber once Ryder is dead. Do I not get to do Sabers if I don't, like, take the right dialogue option earlier in the game? That's unfortunate. So you've come, Miyamoto Iori. Shosetsu. Ryder. So your dissension was just an act after all? A grand performance. Did you enjoy it? Enough questions. Yui wears the waxing moon's vessel. We already know you took it from Tsujinikado's estate. Rumors spread fast. I only just placed it here, in the main hall of Sensoji. Just a little more magical energy to fill the vessel, and then the waxing moon will begin. Will gleam, rather. Gleam. Saber, your offered soul will mark the conclusion of the ritual. But first, I will ask you once more, Miyamoto Iori. What is your wish? What would you, as a master, ask of the waxing moon? My wish? It's something I have to accomplish myself. The endeavor means more than the result. If the waxing moon can truly grant wishes that people cannot grant themselves, then those who would be helpless otherwise should seek it out. However, that thing has no place in a moral world. That is your answer? A moral world? The phrase rings with selflessness. Selfless, just like you are, Miyamoto Iori. I'm not a selfless man, Yui Shosetsu. You're a soft and timid man, Iori, exchanging words before exchanging blows. Maybe so. Then as a soft man, I'll say this too. If you'd call me selfless, Yui Shosetsu, then what wish do you carry in your own heart? To me, you're the one who seems selfless enough to always walk the righteous path. So why devote yourself to the waxing moon ritual? It looks like dark magic to me. Don't make me laugh. I wouldn't care if it were dark magic. I will right all wrongs in the world. And then I will create a truly equitable society. I just remembered that Shang and Cass are teamed up, so they're still gonna be an active threat after this as well. Now that's quite the ambition, Yui Shosetsu. If I must rely on dark magic to achieve the wish, then of course it'll be ambitious. Huh. To right all wrongs. That is the one wish I have in my artificial life. Artificial life? You didn't know, did you? I exist as life infused into a manufactured body. A homunculus. A homunculus? Is that what you said? I don't know the word, but it seems to mean some kind of doll crafted by sorcery. But Yui, you look... just like a human, yes? Indeed, my physical body is the masterwork of Lord Moi Suiken. I'd heard that you came from a samurai family. After bringing me to the world, he died, and I was adopted by a samurai family. As nothing more than an automaton of meat, I wasn't supposed to have doubts or desires. And yet, when I saw how the world was with my own eyes, I became myself. I felt something. Something irrevocable. As soon as my heart filled with these feelings and desires, I couldn't ignore them. The injustice of this world, taking everything from the weak, this blood-spattered hell. Ronin who have no way to provide for themselves fill every alleyway. Religious adherents aren't even permitted to keep their lives. The poor are still starving today, all while the rich sit laughing. immorality, inhumanity, injustice in Edo, in Osaka, in Nagasaki, in Japan. No, in the whole world. There is no end to it. Innocents who cry out with tears of bitter resentment. I can't. I just cannot ignore them. They say the troubled times are over. Then why is there still so much wrong? What is wrong must be made right. That is why I seek the waxing moon. I see. Your wish is not one that can be achieved by normal means. I understand your logic. I don't think there's anything wrong with the wish itself. Also, I just noticed the like red tassels down the front of her. Those are attached to her earrings. I would be so scared of those like snagging and like ripping my earlobe out. Even so, I draw my sword against you, Yui Shosetsu. I never intended to make you an ally. If you understand my logic, then that is sufficient. I thought you might share my wish for a just world, but ever since the beginning, we couldn't let the other live if we wanted to achieve our own wishes. Miyamoto Iori, I see now that you are worthy of being a master. I face you with sincerity, and I shall take your life. Ryder, the Dark Warrior. I wonder who that could be.
貴様らに散々苦杯を舐めさせられた。実に見事な立ち回りであったぞ。ここだ。だがそれもしまいだ。今度こそ仕留めるぞ。ライダー。ざれごと。散りゆけ。いつでも良いぞ。より。
Oh, my bones.
力を借りる。解き放つ。頼む。出番だな。我らが刃。突き立てる。危険。ツバメ返し。
I don't need all my bones.
燃え盛るホムラのごとく。もらった。終わりだ。散りゆけ。押し切る。決める。受けてみろ。ライダー、手を貸せ。任される。うせよ。しまいだ。
Oh, my bones. Luckily, every time you break my bones, I just end up with more bones. You are not inadequate as a master. I've told you as much before. As much before. Even so, my wish will not be thwarted by the likes of you. Come at me with everything you have if you want to defeat me. I intend to do the same. I'm saving the Noble Phantasm because I think Yui's about to stand up. And if so, I want to catch both of them in the blast.
我が前に立ちはだかるすべて地に伏せよ。渾身発揮怒涛。
Just in case you were wondering why I wasn't using it right away. Honestly, I could probably just kill Ryder here. There we go.
Ryder?
I like how she's got like a weird like cyber tech suit underneath her like ancient Japanese armor. Shosetsu, your anxieties are all justified. I've seen this before. She's like, yeah, I'm going to create a world of true equality by killing everyone. And then Shosetsu wastes all of her command seals. Sever Ueno and Yoshiwara, so I can't start with here. Well, let's save Tomomo first. Master definitely feels like she's taking Chiemon's like absolute refusal to repent kind of seriously. Which is weird because she's an alter, she should be into this. This isn't Tankrishan, this is Emojan. I mean, even so. And it's dead. They're not, however. Hey, would you do me a favor and like scooch closer? Thanks. I don't actually know enough about how like Sean acts when she's not altered, but this doesn't quite feel like what I would expect from an alter. Just like in a general sense. What the? What? How on earth did I just start a video in a completely different tab? I don't know if I came through on stream, I don't think it did. But a YouTube short on a tab that isn't even the active tab just started playing. You're not sure this is an altar? I mean, her name is Jean, not Jean Alter, but I mean, her appearance is that of Jean Alter, so... it's fate. It's probably some weird exception to something or other. It is finished. There's no reason to stick with this lot any longer. We're leaving, Lancer. Oh no! Lancer, did you... I'm glad you're unharmed, Master. Please leave me here. I will follow after you soon enough. Don't keep me waiting long. Thank you. I simply must kill everyone. Not as straightforward. I still think it's really cool how, like, Musashi has, like, a single unified style, more so than, like, swapping between different styles. Like, it very much speaks to, like, a different type of mastery to Iori. Like, Iori kind of, like, pulls out what he needs in a given situation, whereas Musashi just does everything all at once, all the time. I don't think the Revenants appreciate that attack. But I don't appreciate them, so it kind of evens out. Ow, my bones. It's fine, they were just holding me back. Without them, I am now more limber and agile. That said, I will consume some rice. I don't need all my blood, but I think I need a little bit more than I had. It's dead.
残るは一箇所のみ。
We're almost there. I'm gonna have my Noble Phantasm for the last one. Probably another shot of it if I restore my affinity gauge as well.
あら、ここは一人だけ。
Me as well, since it's not like I get to save the others if I don't use them.
ひらめいた。まあ、こんなにたくさんいたんじゃない。南無天満大自在天神。仁王栗から小天将。行くぞ剣豪バット。イシャナ大天将。
Missed opportunity to blast one guy with Noble Phantasm. I mean, I kind of did.
これなら。そこ。
Oh, there's another one. I didn't even see it. I got it anyway.
見よう見まね。ひらめいた。ご期待に応えましょう。一等三敗、無限を破り、ゼロに至る。
Grasp the Void.
大天将。これにて一件落着。太夫のところへ戻りましょう。
Incidentally, tapping into the void for like the purposes of like swordsmanship or similar isn't just like an anime thing. I will clarify after the 5-minute break if I remember. Please use this time to refill your water or other beverage, go to the bathroom, some other third thing, anything that would take about 5 minutes. I will see you shortly. Time flies and I return. Luckily, Void is gated by Li Xuan and not Saber, so it's not that big of a deal that I missed out on Saber, assuming that I missed out on Saber. About tapping into the Void, so yeah, basically, it's not about, like, tapping into, like, this mystical energy force that is, like, you know, dark and mysterious. It's basically the notion of, like, casting aside any thought that is not immediately productive. It's kind of like the basis of meditation and also like the end goal. Like, you're not supposed to like not think, but rather every thought that crosses your mind is like evaluated for whether or not it is immediately useful. And if it isn't, it is set aside. And if it is useful, it is then utilized. So you're kind of like honing yourself down to exactly what you need to be in the moment. Yeah, Ultra Instinct is kind of like born from the same concept, it's just a little bit more fantastical. Yeah, like when somebody says, like, you know, meditate, clear your mind, they don't actually mean stop thinking, they mean like stop thinking thoughts that are not productive right now. Sadly, a lot of the times when like meditation is depicted, they kind of don't really convey that. And it results in like an endless stream of jokes where the punchline is like, I can't stop thinking. How could meditation help me when the problem is that I have too many thoughts? Giant Joro Spider. I like how noodly its hair is. Like even when it's like time slowed down, like the hair was still kind of going crazy. Alright, the ley line should be cut off now. The Divine Being has been weakened. Shi Angi. Ushi goes in the Unholy Transgressor. To be fair, if I had like a bunch of springs on my back, I would also bounce everywhere. It seems like a lot of fun. Though I would not do it if there was an opening the size of a barn that Iori could explore. Did I just say explore? Exploit. Exploit sounds like something that you would do in Slime Rancher to make money. Incidentally, Slime Rancher, game much better than I thought it was going to be. Made me cry, in a good way. This Lord also sounds like something in the Rick and Morty. True. I think this is a new scene. It is. I leave no debts unpaid. I assume that, like, Vior is Dutch for fire. Divine Messenger, crush the intruder. Yeah, she doesn't have a servant unless Assassin has been hiding this whole time, which does sound like a very Assassin thing to do. So she's probably dead. Ryder moves so quickly. We have to hurry after her, Yori. Oh, there you two are. Master. Hey, Musashi. Looks like you managed to sever the ley lines just fine. Of course, it was a piece of cake. Even so, that thing still looks to be bursting with energy. So it seems. Master. Okay. You want me to hold it back, right? She worked your teacher to the bone. The male Musashi must have had a tough time. Pupils were some of their teachers, I guess. Could it be the Iori on your side, too? Eh? Did you say something? Nope, nothing at all. Alright, we'll leave that to you. Roger. Shosetsu, Chiemon, Lancer all got injured and ran off, so they can't help. Well, let's use what we got and put a stop to that thing. Yori, you handle Ryder. Please be careful. Okay, let's get going, Saber. Ah, such persistence. We've got you, Ryder. It's time to end this. Hopefully, let's not burn our one-up this early into the fight. I think my favorite thing about the boost that Tomomo gives is the attack speed bonus. It just feels really good to go even faster. I think I can tank one hit. If I'm wrong, I've got a one-up. could also substitute into Saber.
すぐに行く。気をつけろ。踏み潰されるぞ。追い込んだ。叩きかける。
If this were a Metal Gear Rising boss, you'd be able to like slash her legs off at the joints.
これ以上抗うことはあり
One hit point.
ません。特平服なさい。人の子まだ。
And then a Saber intervened because I think I was about to die anyway.
我が無人の雷。
Oh, I didn't even realize that she lost her shot gauge, honestly.
及ぶところではないと知れ。
I was just kind of vibing laying into her.
これほどの力を。そうしてみれば、江戸は勝負の数を。イカズチだ。撃たれるなよ。
Don't let the lightning hit you, Saber. I don't think you understand how fast lightning is and how fast humans are.
私が怖い。
空の以上800野鳥を踏みにじらせはせん。やるぞ。
荒ぶる神の力にすがる悪心。
This malevolent whisper that clings to the power of a vile god. It must be stopped.
残念ですが。大技が来る。構えろ。お覚悟。
Hi, hell's shenanigans. I went over that.
より。
当たりはしない。
熟した。
力を借りる。頼む。
わかった。我
This is
らがやれ
fine.
ば見消し立てる。
The funny thing is, it technically wouldn't be the first time in a video game that, like, I predicted and parried lightning. You might think that I'm talking about Final Fantasy X, but in fact I'm not.
見せなさい。
I like how she gave herself a tail. Very important. Whenever you're designing yourself a body, you should always give yourself a tail. Like, why not, you know? It's like you have the ability to do so.
上から来るぞ。
You'd be missing out if you didn't.
より。
力を借りる。
わかった。
I should have just riposted her there, actually. Oh well. I think she was about to do the bouncy ball attack. Something I always wondered is like, who designs the outfits for like the heroic spirits? Like, not out of universe, obviously, like that's whatever artist, but like in universe. Like, who decided that Ushigo's should be covered in like Tron lines, you know?
イカズチだ。撃たれるのよ。今だ。叩き込め。
燃え盛る炎のごとく。
It's kind of the same thing with like magical girl outfits and like magical girl shows. It's like, who's actually sitting down and designing these?
すかさずお湯で。
ライダー。 空の方だ。
And she's dead. Or is she? I don't think she is. Her dot on the minimap hasn't disappeared. Oh no, you don't. You're not getting away. Now, Saber. My true name is Yamato Takeru. Possessed by grief, bringers of destruction. Spirit of wrath, perish by my sword. Sea, ground, sky, ground, sea, gale, and flames. Gather here, forces of heaven and earth. Sword of heaven. Aina Murakumo no Tsurugi. And she's dead, for real. You can tell because her feathers came off. This is the very spirit of peace. And the bowl evaporated. I like the symbolism of like the sun shining on Saber while Iori is still standing in shadow. Such brilliance. Saber is Yamato Takeru. Iori is level 78. We still have to kill Castor. Take her away. Yes, sir. Wait, where are you taking Shosetsu? Do not interfere, Miyamoto Iori. She is in our custody. I want to hear an explanation. You're a difficult man. Mystery must remain concealed. So says the Clock Tower, stewards of Western Magecraft. Homunculi are born of Western Magecraft, specifically alchemy. My lady said it is only fitting for the Koya family to take charge of her. So Lady Dorothea knew that Shosetsu was a homunculus? I have no need for your pity, Miyamoto Iori. My fight ends here, but perhaps that's for the best. Midas words gave me much to consider. I rushed too much, that I'm sure of now. As a result, my wish only led to bringing more wrong into the world. Shosetsu, your ideals are just. I'm sure there are many people who believe as you do. Otherwise, you wouldn't have so many ardent disciples, Yui Shosetsu. Seeing your desire for a truly peaceful world, how can I put it? It's beautiful. Even without the waxing moon, your wish will become reality one day. Righteous ideals cannot go unrewarded. You can... Shosetsu? You can do it. You can walk the path of the righteous who wish for peace. If anyone can, it is you. Lord Iori. Miyamoto Iori. Will you take my hand? This feeling of mine, I don't believe it to be wrong. It isn't. I've seen your wish clearly, and I will not betray that wish. Saber and I have our hands full with Edo, but we will fight to bring peace to the world. That I swear, Yui Shosetsu. Yes. You'll promise me that? I'm glad. We're leaving. Isn't it really okay to make a promise like that? Our goals are similar. I can feel it. That's why I said what I did. Huh. That's not exactly what I meant. Rather, No, never mind.
ああ、もう太陽。
What are you doing, Dayu? I told you not to push yourself. Was Musashi smiling just now?
あ
I think so.
行こうセイバ
Let's go, Saber. She looks like she wants to say something.
さてと、
Well then,
いろいろとあ
a
った
lot
け
has
れど、
happened, but that's one
ようや
matter
く
finally
一
taken
件
care
だ
of, right?
え
Yes, I really owe you for your help, Master.
うん。
That you
こ
do.
のお礼は
I'll
う
accept
ど
your
ん2
thanks in
杯
the
で
form
受
of
け
two
取りま
bowls
し
of
ょう
udon.
って決
But
着をつ
really,
けたのは
Iori, it was you
い
and
おりく
Saber
ん
who
と
took care of
せ
this.
それに助力もない
You
よ
could
ね
hardly say I helped you at all.
私
I
が
was
した
just
くて
doing
し
what I
た
wanted.
そうかしこまられても正
I
直
don't know what to
困
do
っ
with all
ちゃ
this
います
praise, honestly.
で
But
も
still,
そうね
I do feel a sense
達
of
成感
accomplishment,
が
I
ある
think.
のはこの江戸で切るべき
I
も
feel
の
like
が
I've done all I need to in this
って
Edo.
感じ
There's just one thing left.
武蔵ちゃん
Musashi?
ね
Yes,
多分そろそ
I
ろ
think it's about
頃合
my
いね
time. Talking about this has helped me realize it.
ってことで
So, I'm
ごめん
sorry,
ね太
Dayu.
夫
It's time for me to
私
move on
そ
to the
ろ
next
そろ
one.
次って
What do you mean
な
by
んだほ
next?
ら言ったでしょ
I told you before, didn't I?
私
I'm
は
not a
普
regular
通の
servant.
こういう定めを負った
I'm a
サーバ
servant
ン
with
ト
a
なの
particular
です
destiny.
こ
There's
れば
nothing
か
I
り
can do
は
about it.
つまり当世
Are you
から
saying that you're gonna
去る
leave this world?
イエス
Bingo,
そういう
that's right.
待て
Wait, but your spirit core is intact, and you don't seem to have any grave injuries.
精霊の大挙とはちょっと
I
違
guess it's a
う
bit
かな
different from most heroic spirits' departures.
エーテルの体を保てずに
I
消
don't
えるの
disappear
とは
because I
違
can't
って
sustain my ethereal
こ
body.
の私
I
は
cross to a
他
different
のあ
world.
またの可能性
If you imagine that
あまたの
all the
平行世界を
possibilities, the
海
many
とすれば
parallel universes are the same,
私は
I am
流
like a
され
raft
るま
set
ま
adrift,
漂流
carried
する
wherever
小
the
舟
currents
が
take
今
me.
回は英月と
This time, the waxing moon, and certainly other forces of fate pulled me here.
いよいよ次の
But it's time
旅
for my next journey.
もう旅
So
立
you
た
have
れ
to
て
set
し
off
まう
already? Is that what you
う
mean?
んそう
Right, exactly.
いおり
I'm
くんは
glad you could
本
come to
当
grips
に
with it so
飲み込み
quickly,
が早い
Iori.
ってことで太夫
And with that, Dayu, if it's alright with you, may I grant you a wish before I go?
こう見えて一
I'm
応
still your
サー
servant,
バン
you
トな
know.
もの
I should endeavor to fulfill my master's wish.
私の願いだ
My
よ
wish is for you to do as you please.
もちろん二言は
Of
ないよ
course, my mind hasn't changed.
私の願
Grant
いを
my
叶え
wish,
ておく
Musashi.
れ大したことはしてあげら
I
れない
can't
け
give you
れど
anything more, but accept that much as my parting gift to you.
武蔵ちゃん
Musashi, you don't have to worry about me anymore.
他の誰かの願いなん
Don't
か
be
に振
steered
り
by the
回され
desires of
ないで
others. Fight for what you
た
must.
だ自
Fight
分の
what you
ため
must
に
fight for your own sake.
武蔵ちゃん
Musashi, live your life however you please.
とびきりの青空を
Fly like a bird through the great blue skies.
私はもともと
I couldn't use magecraft myself.
使えない
I asked Tsuchimikado how to use command spells once, but that's all.
けど
Still,
マスタ
I
ー
am your
が
master.
今ので少しは
Was I able to do something a little master-like just now?
少しどころか
More than just a
最
little.
高の選別
It's
を
the
もらっ
best
たわ
parting gift I could have asked for, Dayu.
吉原でいただいたうどん
Plus, the
も
udon I
格
had in
別で
Yoshiwara was spectacular.
この
I
江戸
love
は
this Edo.
5本
Ahem.
それじゃ
Well then, let me
あ
say
改め
this.
いおりくん
Iori,
はい
私の心残りが
I
何
think you already know
か
what the last thing I need to do is, right?
無論です
Of course.
むしろ
If anything, I'm the one who should put it into words.
今は亡き父
My
上
late master was the greatest swordsman in all of
江戸
Japan.
にも名高き
The
宮
name
本武
Miyamoto
蔵
Musashi is renowned across
こうして
Edo.
出会
It
いの
must
記
be
念
fate
は
that we met again here.
故にどうか
So please,
真剣勝負の
draw
試
your
合が
swords
し
and
たい
fight me to the death.
ああもう
Enough already.
Oh,
Really, you
samurai
samurai are always so.
お
I accept.
世界は違
Our
えど
worlds may be separate, but you're my one and only disciple, my final
最
charge.
後の際にて
I,
残った未
Dino
練
Musashi, will take on what Musashi left unsettled when he reached
女
enlightenment.
より正気か
Are you serious?
死が特別な
I
相手だとい
understand
う
you'll
の
never
は
get a chance to
分か
fight
る
an opponent like your teacher
だ
again.
が君では
But can you really beat
彼
her?
女に勝て
If you
ば
were,
勝つ刀の問
it's
題
not
で
a
はな
question
い
of winning or losing.
剣士剣客の
As a
端
simple
くれとして
swordsman, I have to fight.
手出し無用
You need to
ご
help
意
me.
見無用
No need to talk me out of it.
英月も何もかも
Let me forget about the waxing moon and all
今
that just for this
この時
moment.
だけは忘
Please,
れず
Saber.
どうか
That's all I ask of you.
それが
Then this is your pride as a swordsman?
あ
Yeah.
あるい
Or maybe
は
I'm just being stubborn.
より
Iori,
君が
the reason you fight in the
言う
ritual
君が心
wish that
に
you
抱
hold
く
in your heart
あの夜から
has surely been the same ever since that night.
頑固なやつめ
Stubborn isn't the half of it. Do as you wish. Yeah.
仲
Are
良
you
し
done
の
with your little
話は
buddy-buddy chat over there?
セイバー君と
You and Saber
二
could
人
both come at me
同
at
時に
once. That's allowed too, you know?
ちょっと武蔵ちゃん
Musashi, come on now.
冗談とは言
That
わ
wasn't
ぬ
a
のだ
joke,
な
was it? I really do like you, Musashi.
私もよ
Likewise.
セイバーに手出しは
I
させ
won't
ま
let
せん
Saber butt in. I want to fight you one-on-one.
その息
That's
や
the
言
spirit.
うでも
But wait just a second. Are you sure you're not getting carried away, Yuri?
悪いけど
I hate to say it, but I outrank you in Nita Nishibiyu, don't I? I'm going to save my game here. How long has it been since the last save? 0 seconds. Are you going, Iori?
ああ
Yes. Don't try to stop me, Saber.
言っても聞かぬ頑固
There's
者
no
を
stopping somebody as obstinate
誰
as
が
you
これ
anyway.
だが
But
そ
in
の代わ
return,
り
you have to promise me that you'll come back alive
近
no
い
matter what.
君にはまだ
You still have a wish you need to fulfill, don't you?
元より
I don't intend to let
道
myself
半ば
get
で倒
killed
れる
before I
つも
see
りは
everything
冒
through to
頭
the
な
end.
俺を信じろ
Trust me, I'll come back alive,
必ず
no matter what.
なら
Then go.
セイバー
Saber, can I ask one more
俺
thing
から
of
も
you?
俺が戻っ
When I come
た
back,
お前を
I'd like to call you by your true name.
聞こえたか
Did you hear me?
俺
I'd
は
like to call you.
な
What? Well, where did that come from all of a sudden?
筋の通
It's
っ
only
た
reasonable,
話だ
isn't
ぞ
it?
先の戦いで
Most of the participants
右に
left in the
残った
ritual
者
learned your
ほぼ
identity in the
全て
previous battle.
これ以上の
There's no
隠し
point
立て
trying to
は
hide
も
it
はや
any.
ダメだ
No,
ダメ
no,
だ
no. There's no way I'd let you call me that.
そこをなんと
Why not? Because.
5章だから
Oh, come on.
嫌だ
No.
頼む
Please, Saber. You really are stubborn.
ならば
But only
一度だ
once.
けだ
If it's one time and one time only, I guess I could let you call me that.
特別も特別だ
It's a very special exception, so you'd better appreciate
あり
it.
がとう
Thank you. Then I'll be sure to save it for just the right moment. I
そ
gotta
ろそ
get
ろ行って
going.
くる
You'll be there to watch, right, Saber? I will. I like how Iori gets a cut in here.
いざ尋常に
Without further ado,
勝負空の方だどうだ
oh, that ripped through her shell gauge. What the heck? Was it I who called her or the waxing moon? Or did Musashi simply come here herself? I can't help but wonder, without some twist of fate, would this battle have happened? But perhaps for those two, any time or place the chance to meet would be like this. Yeah, you could be right. For those who are compelled to perfect the art of the sword, entering a duel in order to recognize an opponent's worth is their inevitable destiny. She gets her shell back, this is fine. Oh, you know what? It wasn't like pure random chance that I survived at 1 hit point that one time. I've got a skill that makes me survive at 1 HP, I think. Oh, my bones.
空の型だ。どうした。
I'm in danger.
なるほどね。水の型。見よう見まね。ひらめいた。なるほどね。見よう見まね。早く鋭く。
Oh, that was all of my blood at once. I was doing pretty well up until the point where I wasn't. This is fine.
空の型だ。
私が呼んだのか、英月が呼んだのか、はたまた武蔵ちゃんが単にやってきただけなのか。こんな感じ。妙な巡り合わせがなけりゃこの勝負はなかったなんて考えもしたけどさ、あの二人ならいつかどこかで巡り合ってまた果たし合いを始めちまうかもね。
I wonder if anybody's gonna hold them accountable for like all the property damage that they're causing in the background.
相手を認めるなら何勝負つけることは先への定めか。
Granted, who could serve Musashi with like a collection notice?
見えている。
Like Zelrich and basically nobody else.
見えている。遅いな。
Sure, just say that Ishidosen did it.
どうした。遅いな。
Now, I know that Iori said that he wouldn't use Saber, but I am a little bit sad that I can't use Rider. It's like, surely a fox is fine.
見えている。捕らえた。見えている。燃え盛る炎のごとく。終わりだ。見えた。決める。
水の型。
I like how the little stabby heavy attack in Fire Stance with Void Afterglow has like a distinct, like void shot look. That's nice attention to detail. I appreciate that.
澄み渡る天のごとく。
I don't want to hit her with my Valor Strike until the end of the fight. Just because to do otherwise would be non-canon. Well, the Void Valor Strike specifically.
ここだ。
She's like, no, you do it like this. I don't recognize that one. I kinda guessed what it would do, just not enough to counter it. This is fine. Oh, she can chase you with that. And then he hits her with a Tsubame Gaeshi from each sword.
ツバメ返し。
これは負け
Yes, it's Zero after all.
かしら。
Swordsmanship of such a high caliber that it reaches into the realm of magic. And then she exploded. Finally, the waxing moon ritual finally ends here. Right. So, the waxing moon's vessel, how exactly are we supposed to destroy it? Ah, with our swords. Ah, with our swords. No, wait, hold on. Is it really okay for us to just swing at it? Obviously, my noble phantasm could slice it in two in a flash, but inside the vessel? If assassins and riders' souls are inside, is it really okay to just chop it open?
なんだ
Oh, have we found something you're actually scared of? Yeah. Sounds like it's finally time for me to take center stage. Do you have an idea, Gramps? Do you even need to ask? I wouldn't bother coming out if I didn't. Well, what have you got? I'll absorb the waxing moon's vessel into myself. What? Saber's concern was right on the mark, 100%. This vessel is not up to the task of storing magical energy like heroic spirit souls. If you hit it wrong, the energy could burst out and level the whole area.
そこまでのものか
That could happen. It's just a forgery of the Grail. As a vessel, it doesn't hold a candle to the Holy Grail. However, if I fuse with it, it'll be nothing but a spellbook. I'll bond with it now. Cut me down afterwards, Saber, and the vessel goes too. But that will...
自害を選ぶ
You die with it, Gramps.
青にさんや
Don't talk back to your
長
elders.
生きに
I've
老
been
骨
around
の
long enough
決断
anyway.
に多くの人の
Passed
手
from
を
person to
経て
person for so long, I've seen the rise and fall of many lands.
多くの戦い
and the
の
end
終
of
わり
many
を願う
battles.
その旅の
Ending my
果て
journey
が
with the two of you is a
お前
greater
たち
joy
で
than
あ
I
っ
could
た
have
こ
ever
と
hoped
は
for.
なかなか
There was never a
大
dull
切
moment,
し
that's
な
for
か
sure.
ったからな形あるもの
All
はいつ
material
か
things break down
壊れる
eventually. I'm just choosing when I do, Iori.
紅玉の牢屋
Grandpa Red, you really are a sweet old man,
優しい
huh?
牢ならばせめて
I'll make this last journey as painless as I can.
頼むぞセイバ
I
ー
know I can count on you, Saber. Except the music cut out. What's up with that?
ではイオリ
Iori, pick up the Waxing Moon's vessel.
あ
Okay. Guess like Lancer was incapacitated, so they can't gank me now? Oh, is this a chance where I can like make a wish?
うん永月の儀は終わる
The Waxing Moon ritual will
二
end.
度と
Nothing like this
か
will
よう
ever
なもの
happen
が
again.
行われ江戸の平穏は
Edo's peace will
守
be
られ
ensured.
カヤは無事でい
Kaya
る
can live without fear or harm.
向こうの民
No
も
more innocent lives will be threatened.
人として正し
This
い
is
道
the
だ
moral and humane path.
まさに
It's the appropriate conclusion.
本当に
But is it really? Iori,
俺は
the Waxing Moon, I will... I can choose to destroy it or not destroy it. I mean, both are tempting. And I do have a save right before this point, so whatever happens, I can just reload, kill Musashi again. I will destroy it. In the end, my life was but a contrivance.
だがそれゆえに
Yet this led me to question,
問わずには折れない
honey,
なぜと
why?
乱世は
The age of chaos and blood has ended.
人々は口を
All
揃えて
voices
そう言う
rise up
が
as one to proclaim this.
全てのものが
But still, not all are able to live in peace.
教えてください
Please tell me, Lord
相池
Suiken,
先生なぜ人の
why
世は
is
核
this
の
world
歪なのです
contorted
か
as it is?
歪みを正すには
Laying it
奇跡に
straight
すが
would
る
call
より
for a
他は
miracle,
なくそして
and miracles
奇跡
occur
は
but
二度と
once.
つかめないだが
Yet,
ならばこそ
if it must be so, I will.
私は
From
From the night Iori's tranquil youth ended till today, those that were drawn to Edo by the moon exchanged their blades, words, and hearts, watching them fall, witnessing their passing. The moon is now swollen, and the time is nigh. To attain the waxing moon, to fulfill his earnest wish. A ray of light. Burn in hell, Miyamoto Bioi. What do you think you're doing? And he's dead. He socked her in the jaw with a fistful of flame. That probably hurt. Shusetsu, you're awake. Ah, once more. Hey, don't get up. Kaya worked hard tending to your wounds. Just rest, you weakling. Very well. To think that I would be saved by you a second time. Shusetsu, why did you protect me? I do not know. But... the burning light I saw back then, it revealed the next step of my path. It guided me. I can't help but think that way. Guided you? That doesn't matter, Yui Shusetsu. I don't care about your reason. For now, I just have to appreciate you for saving Iori. So, thank you. Your thanks are unnecessary. I only did what I wanted to do. These wounds still do not heal. Chiemon has given me quite the parting gift. Wounds? I'm not a normal person. My body recovers quickly. Most wounds heal in mere moments. I was made that way. That explains why you look so unconcerned in Wano, even after getting hurt. Yes, those wounds were quite shallow. Ryder and I made certain I wasn't seriously hurt. But this time was different. Chiemon's flames are surprisingly potent. As I said earlier, I took these wounds because I wanted to. Do not worry about me. Just do what you want. Just do what you must. Thank you. I promise that your efforts will not have been in vain, Shusetsu. Sailor? Right. We'll break the vessel and put an end to the ritual. What remains of the game isn't enough for a full stream, even if I reload the file and go back and don't destroy it. I kind of assumed that destroying it would, like, instantly lead to an ending. Let's begin. Iori, take the vessel. Someone broke through the bounded field. Show yourself. So you're saying not enough for a full stream? Do you mean like 15 minutes or do you mean like an hour? What do you mean? Could it be? It's been a while, Iori. Well, I guess it hasn't really been that long. When last we saw each other, I told you we'd meet again. So here we are. What? Jake Shingon. I thought you withdrew from the ritual when you lost Archer. Why are you here? Hey, Iori. How do you feel about giving me the waxing moon? Of course, you'll be suitably rewarded. Give it to you. My country is being invaded. Millions of people are fighting against oppression. Honestly, it's a war we can't win. Many have died. Few remain to command those that live. But if I had the waxing moon, an omnipotent wish granter would change all of that. The tide of war could be altered. Didn't you once say you were fighting to protect Edo? You and I are the same. This is no different. I will reclaim the peaceful future for my lord, my people, my friends, and my children. Cheng, I truly do understand how you feel. But the waxing moon must not exist in this world. We can't rely on something like that. One must walk a moral path. One must live correctly. Magnificent. Even now you would say something so virtuous and pristine. Or should I say righteous? Whatever the case, you are incredible, Miyamoto Iori. But what exactly is living correctly? Is it quietly accepting violation and disgrace? Your fine words are nothing but the conceits of somebody who has only ever known peace. If there was really a way to save people correctly, morally, of course I'd jump to that. I wouldn't give a damn for the waxing moon. So you won't give up on the waxing moon, Shingon? Exactly. If you won't give me the waxing moon, we unfortunately have nothing more to discuss. Do it, Caster. Watch out, Yori. Caster? Tsuchimikado has already died, and yet he remains in this world. Does that mean that Caster switched masters? Is that how he gained enough magical energy to stay in this world? I guess that makes sense. Caster, don't make me laugh. You're no match for saber-class servants with high anti-magic powers. I'll cut you down by... I see. So this is how humanity envisions their hero. That sword, it looks a little weak to be Ave no Murakumo no Tsurigi. Ah, so you keep it hidden in that sheath. Stay alert, Master. This one is regarded as the finest in all Japan, a god-killing hero. The legendary conqueror and slayer of men, monsters, and gods, even brothers. And the true name of that storied personage? Yamato Takeru no Mikoto. Who the hell are you? Clairvoyance? No, that's not it. You bastard. You recognize me. Yes, I do. It's only a matter of connecting the dots. Legends must be passed down, or else they wouldn't be graven into human consciousness. It was my memories that made you a hero, my words that etched you into human history. How could I not recognize you? Casters rely on magecraft. They're weak to the three servants who resist spells. But this caster knows who I am. I don't like this Yori. He can use my weakness as a heroic spirit against me. You're right. But we can't back out. Kaya is waiting for us. We'll just have to cut them all down, Saber. No argument there. Oh, he's got tongues in the mouths and his palms. Well, if you say that it's not that much left in the game, what I might do is go overtime tonight. Yamato Takeru. It must be fate that I meet the very swordsman I put in my records. Memories, records, what does he mean by that? How long over time for a short next stream? I'll just do a short next stream, I'll follow it up with something. Miyamoto Iori, was it? You tried to explain the path of righteousness to my lord, but... Are you sure those were your own words? I could tell your true nature is... Don't listen to him, Iori. Your life is yours to live as you see fit. I'll do the same. I'll decide how I live. A conqueror, a brother killer, and what of it? Whatever others might say, that's not me. I know who I am in the depths of my soul. Words won't ensnare you. This isn't merely resistance to magic, Yamato Takeru. How dare you try to become more than how I wrote you? I'm losing my patience, you monster. How does this silhouette not doubt itself? How does this facade maintain itself? How? That's enough, Caster. The battlefield is no place to waste one's breath. Eh? You sobered up. No, you can't even get drunk in the first place. But you do have good timing. It's almost time for me to achieve my goal. Hey, Foxy. Oh, I went through a lot of gems at some point, I see. Must have been while fighting Musashi or something.
遅いな。
Poor Ryder.
もらった。遅いな。
You went through them kind of quickly. No. What masterful skill. However, this fight is mine. The vessel. Sorry, Iori. Hate me if you want. All of this is for His Majesty's kingdom. Thank you for the head pats. Iori, the vessel. After them. Hold. Please, take me with you.
しかし、
But your wounds aren't healed yet. Are you looking to die? If I become a burden, you can simply leave me behind. My lifespan is already determined. Though Lord Soikin did all he could, I will likely not last much longer. But that is exactly why I will not give up until my very soul has burned away. I've lost Ryder, my wounds won't heal, and my pursuit of a wish has failed, but even now, I still...
小説
Shosetsu? When you touched me earlier, your hand was warm. It was so very warm. My heart might be artificial, but something has begun to stir there once more. And I didn't know I was capable of feeling such deep emotions. You are the only person who should have the waxing moon.
そう
I see.
ならば小説
Then you should be there to make sure that happens,
俺たち
Shosetsu.
が英月を取り戻し
We're going to take back the waxing moon and shatter it. That's our plan. Right.
テイとキャスターは
I think Shang and Cast are going to Akasaka to connect the vessel to the ley line. Then we have to hurry. Let's go, Iori. Right. Shosetsu, can you come? I can leave at a moment's notice. Let me know when you're ready. Okay, my prediction for what's gonna happen is that Shosetsu is going to end up, like, absorbing the vessel and, like, manifesting the grail properly so that, like, a wish can be made on it.
人や
Like, why else would there be a homunculus here, if not to do what homunculi do? You know? Thank you for the rotation and the hydration, by the way. That's it, we're gonna call it there for the night. Thank you so much for joining me, I really appreciate it each and every time. Next scheduled stream is going to be on Sunday. It is a multi-world between Wind Waker and Link to the Past because I beat Hollow Knight. The next time that I'm playing this game is going to be on Monday. I hope you have a wonderful night, and I hope to see you again. Good night.